All right. So, how often have you been engaged in a debate? You think you got the other person whooped, and they pull out a research article. Oh, that proves you wrong. You see, researchers have done a study and they found blah, blah, blah. And of course, they always say, trust the science, trust the science. Yeah, guess what? Today we're going to find out that you can't trust the science. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
Now, before you get all worked up, I'm going to tell you something. This is not about COVID and vaccines, okay? If you guys want to talk about COVID and vaccines in the comments below, feel free, but I am not going to get involved in that. I have not studied the efficacy of these vaccines or anything like that, and so I have no opinion on them. No, this is about all those other arguments you get into where they whip out these studies, whether it's gun control or transgenderism or anything like that. Oh, they always love these research articles. Well, here it is. Here's the headline: Florida State University criminology professor leaves after being accused of, get this, falsifying data. Know what you're thinking? Well, now come on there, Johnny Walker Dread. This is just one of those rare instances. No, it's not. This is really common, far more common than you think, and I'll explain why I can make that claim a little bit later. But let's go ahead and read this article. All right, so here are the main points. Professor Eric Stewart disappeared from his position at Florida State University. Well, in other words, he just doesn't feel like teaching. Okay? Professors will disappear in any time you can give them the opportunity because that means they're not teaching classes and they hate teaching classes. They dream of the day that they can go and work where they don't have those pesky undergraduates bothering them. Don't believe me? Read the book Prof Scam sometime, and you'll figure it out. All right. Since 2006, he has been accused on a number of occasions of falsifying data. In 2020, a committee reconvened to launch an inquiry into his malpractice. Okay, let's read about this. A criminology professor at Florida State University suddenly left with his $190,000 a year position after being accused of fudging data to make racism seem more common. Okay, and by the way, this goes beyond fudging. This is blatant fraud. You'll understand why I say that here in a moment. Professor Eric Stewart has had 6 of his studies, one of which dates as far back as 2006, retracted amid allegations that he fabricated data by altering sample sizes. Interesting. Let's continue. Stewart has denied such criticisms, but after the 6th incident in 2020, an FSU committee reconvened to address his record and findings. Since last month, he has been absent from Florida State University, perhaps marking the end of his 16-year career at the school and a year-long investigation into his academic malpractice. Oh, by the way, he has been nailed for basically forging 6 studies. How many do you think the real number is? Over 16 years. How many articles are out there that are completely fabricated? And that's just involving him. All right, so here is the dude. Gee, guess what he's going to claim is the real reason why that he has been singled out for criticism. You want to guess? Wait. In 2011, Stewart co-authored a study that claimed to demonstrate that as Black and Hispanic populations grew, the public increasingly demanded longer sentences for Black and Hispanic criminals. Now, he's trying to do this study here, right? And guess what? he really badly wants the results to show that blacks and Hispanics get longer sentences. Remember, we have to find racism under every rock and inside every cranny. Let's go on. The study was intended to cast whether the public held prejudicial views toward minority groups and whether that affected sentencing. Stewart was eventually called out by a peer, Justin Pickett, another criminologist at the University of Albany, with whom he had co-authored that paper. Pickett, by the way, was a graduate student on that paper. Okay. Pickett notes that the original untampered data showed that there was no relationship between the growth of minority groups and the severity of criminal sentences handed to them. But the professor will take care of that problem. He published his own paper pointing out issues in their paper, some of which he said were introduced just before publication. In other words, after all the other co-authors had reviewed the paper and had agreed to it, all of a sudden, right before they published, these big changes come into the manuscript, and then it gets sent off to the referees. Gee, how convenient. The data were also altered, intentionally or unintentionally. Oh yeah, unintentionally, of course. How do you alter data unintentionally? Well, you can, but it's not terribly common. In other ways, and those alterations produced the article's main findings, Pickett wrote. Yes. So these were not minor issues on the side, right? No, these alterations to the actual manuscript were the article's main findings. And guess what those findings were? Oh, the racism is a really big problem in this country. Among other inaccuracies, he pointed out that in their article it was claimed that their study was based on 1,184 respondents, but that there were actually only 500. It also handpicked data from 91 counties, as opposed to including the full 326. Well, that's a problem. And these are not small, minor issues. These are blatant red flags. I'm a scientist, I know. Oh, and by the way, here's Pickett, the guy who blew the whistle. Gee, I wonder what the other dude is going to say about him and as to the real reason why he got called out for publishing fraudulent papers. What do you think that reason's going to be? So here is the actual paper that Justin Pickett, the dude that we just saw, published in the same journal for which the original paper was submitted. And the title says it all. Why I Asked the Editors of Criminology, that's the name of the journal, to retract Johnson, Stewart, Pickett, and Gertz, 2011. Okay, so in other words, these guys published a paper in 2011, 4 people on the paper, Johnson, Stewart, Pickett, and Gertz, okay? Pickett is one of the authors. He is the one retracting the paper because he can't get the data to jive with the one that Stewart submitted. Stewart is his graduate advisor. Oh, it's going to get a lot better, guys, because the conspiracies are going to start to crop up. And I know what you're thinking already, but Johnny Walker Dredd, we have editors that are there to stop this from happening. They are the last line of defense to make sure that fraudulent papers don't get published. Oh, unfortunately, guess what? You're going to be very disappointed. But that comes up a lot later and probably in another video. So here is the paper. All right, now here's Pickett saying, there is only one possible conclusion from reanalyzing the data I have. The sample was not just duplicated in the analysis for the published article, the data were also altered, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and those alterations produced the article's main findings. He says that when he brought the issue to Stewart's attention and he asked for specific data, he was ignored for 4 months. Later, 4 other articles, all co-authored by Stewart, between 2006 and 2015 were also retracted, and eventually Florida State University agreed to carry out an inquiry led by a 3-person committee, and they're going to get to the bottom of things. Unfortunately, 2 of those 3 had co-authored papers with him. Oh, that's horrible. Trust the science. Trust the science. Stewart told administrators that Pickett's claims, here it is, guys. Are you ready for this? Lynched me and my academic character, and said that that was particularly significant given that 5 of his 6 studies were race-related, and Stewart himself is black. Okay, he's pulling the race card. This is good. The committee decided not to take action. Gee, I wonder why. But then in 2020, a new controversy involving Stewart arose involving a 6th paper. There's a huge monetary incentive to falsify data, and there's no accountability. Trust the science. Trust the science. If you do this, the probability you'll get caught is so low, Pickett told the Florida Standard. There's too much incentive to fake data and too little oversight. Now, keep in mind, there's a monetary reason to fake data, but there's another reason, political. This is a black man who is writing an article on race. He's doing research on race. You think it's just money? There is a massive motive to fudge data. And what's stopping them? Nothing. And again, I know what you're thinking. There's that referee, the editor. They're going to stop this, right? Stay tuned for my next video. This problem gets even weirder. And we're going to see not only how they faked the data, we're going to also see how they got caught. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.